Hi, I'm Mike Gambardella, and welcome back into Pat's Latest. I hope you had a good weekend, as there's plenty of football news and Patriots information to catch up on from the NFL Combine, trades galore, and a shocker from the Boston Herald and their report of the coming and goings since Gerard Mayo, his firing, and now the hiring of Mike Vrabel. We'll start over with the first big trade of the offseason, where Deebo Samuel is officially off of the San Francisco 49ers and is not on the New England Patriots, but staying in the NFC, going up to the NFC East and joining the team that the Patriots probably should be emulating, at least what they did last season, in getting from a 4-win team to the conference championship game. And the rich get richer in this scenario, where the Washington Commanders give up just a fifth-round pick to acquire Deebo Samuel. On the surface, a little surprising that that's all it took to get someone of Deebo's stature. And maybe it is because of his stature and diminished returns this past season, along with his age getting up there as well, 30 years old in the headlights. But again, just a fifth round pick to get someone who was one of the focal points of offense that was in the Super Bowl just a year ago. So a little surprising to see, one, that's the package that, or just the pick really, that it took to pry someone away from that team, but more so that the Patriots not only were not in conversations for what it only took to get Deebo Samuel, but that they weren't even involved. It's not that they weren't in enough to get high enough in the conversation, it's that they didn't pick up the phone. And more that it is Deebo would not be a fit for what Josh McDaniel is trying to do. Now, yes, Deebo is more of that yards after catch guy, want to stretch the field a little bit, but find creative ways to get him the ball and put him in space. Now, on the surface, that may actually look at, say, that's what Josh McDaniels does. If you look at the slot guys previously, whether it be Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola, or even looking at the tight ends getting out there as well, maybe what, not to the level of Gronk, but a little bit of what he did as well. So for me, a little surprising that, one, the Patriots would not at least be in conversations for someone like Deebo Samuel, but that they just decided that that is not the player that fits for them. Made a little bit tougher, even so, by the state of the wide receiver room, and that there is not a 1,000-yard receiver there, 100-yard catch, 100-catch season guy there. It just is not what currently constructs as the Patriots wide receiver room. It will not include Deebo Samuel, and if you look at the other side of the coin, that Washington team now just continues to get older. And again, Deebo is now put in a situation where he will be the number 2 option at best with Terry McLaurin still there. For the Patriots, a lot of pressure would be put on him up front, and perhaps not fair to him. But again, with a cupboard that is not exactly full, a little surprising that the Patriots were not fully in on Deebo Samuel, and we'll be interested to see what happens from there. For the Patriots, also with some issues, is that tackle is continuing to be a problem. We knew that wide receiver was last year. Tackle will be the number 1 or number 2 issue, depending on how you want to put it. And it's not quite time to hit the Mayday button, but the Patriots are going to need more help in protecting Drake May in 2025. The reason for trouble: one of the top options, Alaric Jackson, who at just 26 years old could potentially have been considered the top option at offensive tackle on the free agent market, has re-signed with the Los Angeles Rams. This puts more pressure on the Patriots to go after Ronnie Stanley, the 31-year-old tackle from the Baltimore Ravens, who hopefully will make it to free agency. We're seeing these top guys, whether it be T. Higgins, Trey Smith, now Alaric Jackson, either being tagged or re-signed before they get to free agency, and that will make the Patriots' jobs much tougher to be able to get this roster up to speed as fast as Mike Vrabel wants to see this happen. It's not just the free agent market that's drying up, it's the NFL Combine throwing monkey wrenches into some potential plans. Whether it was at number 4 or a trade back into the top 10, Will Campbell was considered by most to be the top offensive tackle or offensive lineman, really, in this draft. His combine did not help his chances at making that happen. At offensive tackle, where arm length is such an important factor, there were only 6 tackles last year that had arm lengths under 33 inches. 6 of the 32 times 2. And now, unfortunately, Will Campbell will fall in that spot at 32 and a half, not 33 inches. Now, that half doesn't seem like a huge deal, but it is when you're talking about having 300-pound guys come down your throat and needing to give the difference between 2 and 3 seconds of your quarterback to make a throw. The problem here is that if the Patriots decide at 4 that that's where they want to go, that's something that now stands in their way of making a decision like that, and now perhaps makes more sense to trade back. And we'll get into that in a second here as well. But it's not good news for a guy that would be taken at number 4 overall in a draft where, looking just last year, Joe Alt is the top tackle in that draft and probably would be the number 2, if not number 1 overall pick in this draft, slides to 6. So a big discrepancy there and a big question mark here for the New England Patriots in what they want to do moving forward. It also has a lot of draft issues that come off of this as well. It's not just the measurements gone wrong for Will Campbell. It's the measurements gone for the guy that, if the Patriots, if you look at it, we've continuously said there's the top 2 players in this draft, and that's Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. And you're hoping that one of those 2 guys slides to 4 if a quarterback and another one goes off in those top picks. If Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders get up there, getting one of those guys to slide down. If that does not happen, and only one quarterback does go, plus the 2, you're on the clock. The odds-on favorite, if the Patriots didn't trade back, because they probably wouldn't want to take Will Campbell at 4, was the option to take Mason Graham, the defensive tackle from Michigan, at that number 4 spot. The problem now, because it was assumed that Mason Graham was not kind of that undersized Aaron Donald disruptor in the middle, he was listed at 320 pounds. That puts him on the larger scale, someone that Mike Vrabel is used to, the Jeffrey Simmons type. He checked in at under 300 at 296. Unfortunately, I'll admit I was 296 pounds last year, and I am not a defensive tackle. So not a huge amount for a guy that's got to go up against 300-plus pound linemen on the offensive side that you're going to take at number 4. Again, this just puts more measurements causing problems for the Patriots and 2 guys that they could kind of pencil in at number 4 should one of those 2 guys not fall down. And what this means is that the pressure will now be on Elliott Wolf and Mike Vrabel to start working the phones and potentially move back to a spot where they're more comfortable taking Graham, taking Campbell, or potentially taking Tet McMillan. The other wrinkle in this whole thing is that this NFL draft is set up where there is the top 10 players, and then there's the middle of this first round that is a question mark. There's not guys that you could take at 11 or 30 and you're pretty much getting the same thing. There's a huge drop off here. So the Patriots will have to trade back, but also realize they can only trade back so far before they were actually losing a lot of value within everything that they have. So it's a tough spot now for the Patriots to be in because of these NFL Combine measurements, but we are still hopeful that Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward continue to spark and that they'll continue to shoot up draft boards. The pro days will become very, very much important at the end of this month, and we'll hope to see a lot of teams, and especially QB-needy teams. We know that Sam Darnold will probably fill a hole for someone. Justin Fields potentially could as well. We'll see what happens to the teams like the Titans, the Giants, and the Cleveland Browns and what they do at their quarterback position, the Jets now as well. Who can fill it in free agency and who's going to have that need still and potentially become trade partners for the New England Patriots. We'll wrap up this episode here by going into the Boston Herald tell-all that came out yesterday and more of everything that has happened, and a fantastic read if you have a subscription to the Herald, and a hat tip to those guys as well. They went through everything from this offseason is going from the decision to fire Gerard Mayo to the hiring of Mike Vrabel, what the free agent plan is, a revelation on Mayo as well, and even more on what targets really could work for both in the draft and free agency. A couple of the big ones to pull out here for you is that the mandates that are coming from Mike Vrabel already. He's mandated to the front office about the type of players that Elliott Wolf is going to try and bring in, and that's to treat toughness, play demeanor, and football character as non-negotiables. A great sentence to hear, one to read aloud as a Patriots fan on top of that. But those are the three things: play demeanor, football character, non-negotiables. Those are the three things that they will see and need to see in any free agent or draft players here, so that Mike Vrabel can rapidly reestablish a winning culture. That's a direct quote coming here from the Boston Herald piece. Now, that's exactly what you want to hear for a team that, again, going from 4 wins, and the Commanders did it to the NFC Championship. Can the Patriots make that happen to the playoffs? I think there is a path forward. Again, there's a lot of dominoes that still need to fall, but at least the things that you hear, read, and see are lining up with that. To take it a step further into free agency, this is going to put some cold water, we'll say, on some people's prognostications here, but don't expect Josh Sweat, Stefan Diggs, Amari Cooper, or Khalil Mack to be in a Patriots jersey next year. Those are 4 guys that Patriots reportedly do not have interest in for one reason or another. For the most part, it's age for these guys and also the salaries that they will demand, essentially, at this price point. Additionally, the T. Higgins thing, we've talked at length that he is unavailable at this time, and again, probably would be priced out of that. They could look to see if he does become available again, but if the price continues to get too high, probably not the option. Chris Godwin is the one now, would be your wide receiver one that the Patriots would be after, but unfortunately, it does not look like Tampa Bay will let him out either. Looking also at Gerard Mayo's tenure, and as it went through, I think a lot of people had the understanding that Gerard Mayo would get a 3-year rebuild for this team. Now, obviously, things did not progress as they wanted. Robert Kraft didn't see the things that he needed. So what happened was, when you get halfway through the season or in towards the end of it, a lot of the assistant coaches for Gerard Mayo realized this as well and started making decisions as a 1-year thing instead of a 3-year thing. So suddenly a lot of those young players, whether it be Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, or anybody else, suddenly are not getting the same opportunities, playing time, or chance to develop. And I think that stunted a lot of those players' growth. That's why you're starting to hear people say, we want to see what these sophomores are able to do in their second years out of the NFL draft. But because of what happened, what was thought, it did not go the way of developing players that same way. I think that Drake May is a great example. They said, obviously, if you knew it was just a 1-year thing, you might have started Drake May up front at week 1. Not that they thought he was ready and it was right idea to sit him for the first 6 weeks, but if you knew you only had 1 year to do it, you may have done things differently. A fair point. Things don't always work that way, but a fair point. Additionally, the Herald noted that they doubt Gerard Mayo returns to coaching. A very surprising thing, and maybe it just was not for Gerard, and a bad taste in his mouth after the season and how it went, but surprising that he would not foray back into it. I'm not sure if that's entirely true, but wouldn't be as that surprising if things, didn't work out and he looks at wanting to do something else. But an interesting spot here from the Herald, that it really didn't go anybody's way last season. We'll be thankful Drake May is here, that they have something to build around. Now, Mike Vrabel is here to establish that culture, Elliott Wolf to execute that at a high level, and get the Patriots back on a winning track. As always, thanks for joining us. Please get down and subscribe to our channel. Give us a like if you like what you hear, and go back and check out our older episodes and get into our comments. If it's not Deebo Samuel, who should the Patriots be after now in free agency or the trade market for that wide receiver position? And who do you want to see the Patriots going after hard for the NFL draft? We'll have more for you all week. Fight on, Foxborough.